Hello, my guildlings. Cole Spire here once again. I know I promised a rapid-fire succession of podcasts, and this is about as rapid as it gets with my schedule. It's still pretty hectic. So I am here with another video or vlog or podcast or whatever this is considered now. I have found a better spot than where I was before. So what am I going to talk about today? It's been a couple months, and like I said, I'm behind. So I want to talk about slavery and racism. Now, I know those things are like years and years and years ago that were very important. But what I am talking about is someone very special who has made it her point to continually be in the limelight by saying stupid things. And as much as I'd like to say that's Brianna Wu or Zoe Quinn or Anita Sarkeesian or any of the other, even Chris Clue, it's not. And as far as I know, she hasn't really been part of this whole thing. So, who am I talking about? Well, instead of telling you, I'm going to show you. And I'm going to show you the first one, the one she did first. First. Seems okay, right? So, for you, I'm going to sit through this minute and a half of idiocy and see if we can't make
trying to wrangle the current Republican Party into line.
But let's be fair. If there's somebody who is a hard worker when he goes to Washington, is Paul Ryan. Not only works with Republicans, but Democrats. You know very well that I work on the immigration issue, trying to get Republicans to support immigration reform. Paul Ryan is somebody who has supported immigration reform, has worked with somebody like Luis Gutierrez. Luis Gutierrez is very respectful, speaks highly of Paul Ryan. This is somebody who's trying to govern.
Alfonso, I feel you, but I just want to pause on one thing, because I don't disagree with you that I actually think Mr. Ryan is a great choice for this role. But I want us to be super careful when we use the language hard worker, because, I mean, I actually keep an image of folks working in cotton fields on my office wall, because it is a reminder about what hard work looks like. So I feel you that he's a hard worker. I do, but in the context of relative privilege. And I just want to point out that when you talk about work-life balance and being a hard worker, the moms who don't have health care, who are working on...
I understand that.
But we don't call them hard workers. We call them failures. We call them people who are sucking off the system. No, really, y'all do. That is really what you guys do as a party.
That is very unfair. I think we cannot generalize about the Republican Party. I agree.
That's true. Not all Republicans. That is certainly true.
Romney did a terrible job about connecting with the middle class. But if Paul Ryan, who comes from...
Okay. That was more time than it needed to have. Now, that was Melissia Harris Perry. She works for MSNBC. She gets paid for this stuff. And since that clip hit the internet, she has become quite the common name. Why has she become quite the common name? Well, as you saw, she's a complete and utter fucking moron. Now, I am going to be giving you anecdotal evidence from my experiences of what hard workers are. And it's going to have nothing to do with actual slavery. But since the progressive left likes to redefine what certain words mean, let's go ahead and redefine what that word means. In today's day and age, I want you to look at who is forced to do menial labor, who is forced to take orders without question, who can't even call in sick in hope or in hopes to get better because they need the pay, and whose job gets threatened if they do call in sick, and they get paid the lowest wage possible. That sounds a lot like minimum wage workers, and I am not an advocate for minimum wage going up to $15 an hour or anything like that. I am in California, and as of right now, California's minimum wage is $10 an hour, which is not that bad, until they go ahead and raise the price of everything else once again and make it minimum. You know, the people who make $10 an hour are going to have a lot of fun for the next month until employers and everything and big businesses start raising the prices. So yeah, it sounds a lot like a minimum wage worker. Now, are they hard workers? Of course. They, and this includes me for when I was working for minimum wage and things like that, have to deal with you guys. And I know when I say you guys, I'm not talking about each individual person that comes in and goes, I'm going to get my stuff and get the fuck out. I am talking about the person that stands in front of you who bitches and complains to the cashier or the customer service representative or the cast member about a problem you have with something that's not in their store when they tell you they don't have it or whatever else it is. I'm talking about those customers. Think of it as in the context of using slavery as an example. Think of it in context as a slave runner who is telling you that you can't do something because of who you are. This sounds familiar. Now, again, I'm not saying minimum wage workers are slaves, not in the least. They are choosing to take those jobs. But once they have them, there's no real choice in the matter of it's either do your job, do how it's told to you, or lose it. Lose hours. We'll find someone else. So yes, they are hard workers. There's another caste of people that are harder, and I want to talk about them more than minimum wage. Think of hard worker. The term hard worker. The one person that comes to mind for me is construction workers. These people deal with the worst elements of nature. Blistering heat, freezing cold, winds, sandstorms. The only thing they really can't deal with because of the materials that they use, and this is only some of them, is rain and snow. Are they not hard workers? Well, my dad, before he died at the age of 55, was a construction worker, and he was proud of it. It wasn't just a job to him, it was his career. He was happy to be a construction worker. He didn't know anything else. He started at the age of 18. Apprenticed under his dad, my grandfather. Apprenticed. Back when being an apprentice meant you were basically an intern. You're not an unpaid intern. So my dad, for a year, worked under his dad for free to learn how to do this trade. When he became a journeyman, my grandfather bestowed upon him his tools. Old tools that were worth something. And unfortunately, they ended up getting stolen from him. That's how you know they were worth something. But that didn't deter my dad either. On the other hand, it made him work harder because he wanted to get those type of tools back. And when I talk about hard workers, this is exactly what I mean. My father worked day in and day out, Monday through Friday, from before the sun came up to after the sun went down, in order to provide for his family. And in the off chance that it was a rainy season here in sunny California, he would take side jobs, which means he wouldn't just work Monday through Friday. He would work Monday to Monday. And sometimes his side jobs continued after his normal job on the week. But according to Melissia Harris Perry, he's not a hard worker. Why? Because he's not picking cotton in colonial Louisiana on some plantation. Because my dad's white. But he's not a hard worker. You know, he didn't work from the age of 18 to 53 and a half, only stopping being out on the job because he was forced to, because his chemo made him too weak. And when his chemo made him too weak, the company that he was with decided to promote him against his will. He didn't want to be promoted, but his knowledge was too much to lose, so they forced him into a promotion to take better pay to stay in an office and tell people what they need to do. My dad hated it because he wasn't used to it. He wanted to be out there with his friends, with his co-workers, and working the job. And 6 months later, when he could no longer work, where he could no longer go in because it was bad enough that he had to be in a hospital 5 days out of a week, they paid for his treatment. Now take that into consideration. My dad worked from the age of 18, basically, till the day he could no longer lift a hammer, being a bricklayer. And he was damn proud of it. And I was damn proud of him for it. So, how is that not a hard worker? On top of that, his co-workers, who were a multitude of minorities and white people, since white people aren't a minority apparently, were all hard workers. Every single one of them. And all of them, and the ones that I meet today in my job, are not bad people. They do not equate themselves with slaves. They joke about their job because they know how hard it is. So, why, then, should we only equate hard workers with people picking cotton? Well, one, because she's a fucking moron and completely and utterly insane. Two, they worked hard too, and they worked for menial labor and menial pay, and sometimes they worked to pay off a debt to their landowners that they would never pay off. Again, that sounds like the middle class. The lower middle class. You rack up debt for a car, for a house, for stuff to put in the house, for stuff to use for in your house, and then you have to have your job to pay for all of that stuff that you never get to use because you're at your job. They're all hard workers. Everybody is a hard worker. You can't just focus on one class of people. Now, before he became one of the richest people in America, Bill Gates was a hard worker. All CEOs were hard workers. Because they worked fucking hard to get there. But I'm going to stop talking about that because I know, as far as we're into this video already, you guys are wondering what the hell this has to do with geek culture. Let me show you. Because, and forgive me for waxing poetic here, there is one fandom that you nigh insult. And the only way that you can even talk bad about it is encompassing being a geek yourself. It's kind of like being a Raider fan, actually. You do not get to make fun of the Raiders. We do. So, what fandom am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about Star Wars, which Episode 7 came out recently and is still making money in the box office. It is one of the most anticipated movies to come out in my lifetime. On top of that, it was a global Facebook alliance of people of not spoiling this movie. Imagine how many people had to get together to kind of go, hey, don't be a dick. And yet people still were. I had part of that movie spoiled for me, and it wasn't even on a science fiction fan page. So Star Wars is a big thing. And when this movie started to come out, well, I'm going to let you watch and you can make your choice.
I have feelings, good, bad, and otherwise, about Star Wars, and I have a lot. I spent the whole day talking about the whole Darth Vader situation.
Really?
Oh.
You could?
Yeah, like the part where he was totally a black guy whose name basically was James Earl Jones.
Right.
And we were all, but while he was black, he was terrible and bad and awful and used to cut off white men's hands and didn't, actually claim his son. But as soon as he claims his son and goes over to the good, he takes off his mask and he is white. Oh, yes, I have many, many feelings about that, but I will try to put them over here. Why do
Good
people...
luck with that.
Yeah. Why do people love Star Wars so much?
Boring conversation anyway.
MSNBC.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
There you have it. Star Wars is racist. Racist as a plantation owner back in colonial Mississippi or Louisiana or Alabama or anywhere else in the South, whipping his daily slave boys into doing whatever he wanted them to do. Only it's not. You see, her whole spiel is a lie. And anybody who's actually seen the goddamn movies know this. Not only is it lying, but it's almost verbatim something that happened in a Kevin Smith movie. Chasing Amy. There have been many YouTube videos that have shown this. Played her clip, and then played Chasing Amy's clip. And I swear to God, the lexicon is almost word for word. Except in the Kevin Smith movie, you get to understand that the dude who's saying it doesn't even believe his own bullshit because he tells you. Flat out, dude, when you asked that question, you almost made me break character. I almost died of laughter. Melissia Harris Perry, on the other hand, believes it wholeheartedly. Which leads me to believe that the only information she has ever gotten from Star Wars is from Chasing Amy. So I don't know if she was a fan of Kevin Smith and saw Chasing Amy and was like, oh, that's what I'm going to do with Star Wars today. That's what I'm going to bring up. Or if she doesn't believe that a movie as old as Chasing Amy still has fans today. Which is 85% of geek culture, since Kevin Smith is among the pantheon of the geeks. No, there are no fans of Chasing Amy out there anywhere anymore, so we wouldn't understand that you ripped off one of the greatest movie writers of our time. No, not at all. You goddamn moron. One, if you've watched the movies, even from episode 1 to now episode 7, you will understand that the incarnation of each version of Darth Vader, be it Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, or now, and since the movie's been out for a while, I'm sorry, the cameo of Darth Vader's skull in episode 7, he has and always will be, for now until the end of time, a white guy in a black suit. Anakin Skywalker was white from episode 1 when he was racing pods to episode 3 where he had his epic battle with Obi-Wan and got fucked up. From episode 4 to the introduction of him invading the rebel ship to episode 6 where he was finally defeated only after saving his son by throwing Emperor Palpatine over the side of a rigging into the vacuous emptiness of space. And then episode 7, his energy from the Force is being passed on to Kylo Ren. Melissia Harris Perry, I understand that you need your 15 minutes of fame. I understand that you want to extend that 15 minutes of fame as long as you can. Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame. I want my 15 minutes of fame. Otherwise, I wouldn't be staring into a camera talking to people who either do listen to what I have to say or just have me on in the background as garbled background noise to pass the time. Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame, or else YouTube wouldn't be a thing. Your 15 minutes of fame, you get paid for it. You get paid well. You're considered a journalist. Maybe it's time to start doing your fucking job and be a hard worker and do goddamn research. Why else would you be paid for it? Why else would you have worked from an intern to what you are now, up the steps of media, to say some bullshit that you know yourself not to be true? There is no symbolism in him wearing a black suit. If anything, it's a goddamn pimp suit. He is supposed to look badass. You are supposed to fear him. It was nothing to do with him not wanting his children or him being powerful and evil and being black. He didn't know about his children, for one, and two, it was halfway through Empire Strikes Back that he even discovered that his children were still alive. And he didn't disown them. He didn't say, oh God, I have to stick with the Empire. I'll just, I'm in this black suit. Let's live up to a stereotype. He asked Luke to rule with him, to join the dark side, and rule the universe, the galaxy, as father and son. And then, while still in his black suit, he saved his son from the Emperor. The last 10 minutes he was on screen, where he wasn't a ghost, he was white. Oh, and the reason he was white is because he was played by a white actor. Irish white actor. Melissia Harris Perry, from the bottom of my heart, and every single geek out there that loves Star Wars, that adores Star Wars, that made Star Wars what it is. Because let's be honest here, sci-fi, science fiction was not a moneymaker when Star Wars came out. It was still a joke. Flash Gordon was one of the biggest things at that point in time. Then you have the Pulp Fiction magazines and the comic books. It came out when being a geek was still a bad thing. Star Wars, when it came out, other production companies said that it would never make money. That giving a up-and-coming director, George Lucas, that much money was a waste. And lo and behold, it is one of the longest lasting franchises in movie history. And by you showing that you don't care, you shat upon every person that calls themselves a Star Wars fan. And you wonder why people are talking bad about you in the media. It's not hard to see. You're a stereotype. You are playing a stereotype. And that stereotype was classified in the same movie you took your lexicon from when you spouted your rhetoric. Your stereotype is the angry black woman. And that's all you are. Is the angry black woman. That's how you identify yourself. And you're going to continue to identify yourself until it no longer makes you money. Which, unfortunately, with the way things are going now in the political spectrum, it's going to be a long time until it doesn't make you any money. Unfortunately. But until then, there are people like me, Mundane Matt, TLDR, Sargon of Akkad, Agent of Doubt, and a numerous amount of other people who will call you on your bullshit. And eventually, modern media will pay more attention to us than they will to you and what you have to say. So I'm going to stop reading here. I'm going to look directly at you. For those of you who are fans of Star Wars and fans of geek culture in general, continue doing what you're doing. Continue being proud. Continue talking and waxing poetic about your favorite fandoms. Doctor Who, Sherlock, Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, D&D, whatever it is. As you can see from back here, one of my main fandoms is Magic the Gathering. Continue doing it. Because they will eventually listen, and they will eventually stop thinking that picking on the geek is a good thing. Nerds and geeks rule the world, people. And we will continue to. And it is just now that the popular kids are getting that idea. So, it's been a little too long for me to be away, so this stuff, again, is outdated by a couple months. These are just my thoughts on it. So I thank you for listening, and please, if you can, and you like what I have to say, like, share, subscribe. And if you didn't like what I have to say, hit me up in the comments. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and now Twitch. All three of them are down below. Thank you, and have a good night.